Good afternoon, everyone. So, since the beginning of Shed Wars, I've been trying to decide what I was going to plant in my pot, because one of the rules of Shed Wars is that you have to plant something in a pot so that you show people, especially those living in apartments or something like that, how they can actually grow things as well if they don't have any land. Now, I normally grow in the aquaponics because I'm a really bad gardener and I'm dreadful at forgetting to water things. Well, it's not just I'm a bad gardener. I have too many things going on in my life. I homeschool 2 boys. I care for my mum who's 81, and I have acreage that needs attention. I have goats that I milk and chickens that I collect eggs from. Anyway, so time is a real issue. So the garden has to be something that's really low maintenance for me. So I've decided to get out my little growing tower that I used to use when I was on a little urban homestead 4 years ago. I might have a video that I can link to of it. Anyway, so these are self-watering pots, and half of my problem that I've been having is, what do I grow? I thought I could grow some basil. Oh, it's not a vegetable, and it has to be a vegetable. So I thought, oh, I could grow some strawberries. No, it's not a vegetable. I could grow some parsley. Oh, it's not a vegetable. Some marigolds. No, that's not a vegetable. So everything I kept thinking of wasn't a vegetable. So, but I have come up with some options. It is a bit late in this Shed Wars season, and hopefully that's not a huge drama, which is why I've got such a variety of things that I'm actually going to be showing. But this is, and you don't have to go this fancy. I've got this, so I'm using it. And I got this when I was living on an urban homestead, because we only had 600 square metres and the house was 600 square metres. Yes, it was a 2-story house, but there wasn't a lot of growing space. And I had the aquaponics then, and I had the chickens then, and I had gardens then. So we outgrew our homestead. Although with everything I've learnt now, there was actually a lot more that I could have done on my urban homestead. But yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's all good. We're here now, and I love the open spaces and the quiet and not having the neighbours mowing every 5 minutes. Anyway, so yeah, so the way these are self-watering pots. I didn't make them, I bought them. But basically what they are is they're a black pot that's got a little slit on the side to let the water out. But that slit is not quite halfway up. It's a fair way up the pot, so that you've got a water reservoir in the bottom. So I've put the clay balls in there because I have them. If I didn't have them, I could have used bits of broken styrofoam. I could have used pretty much anything that's going to hold the dirt out of the water. So I've used rocks at times. When I first did this, I actually used wood chips. I don't know that worked that well, but again, I wasn't watering back then all that well. So the next thing I've put in to actually create a barrier between the clay balls, oh there it is, and the soil, is I've cut a bit of shade cloth to act as a barrier, and I've just popped it in there like that and then put the dirt on top. So that's what it looks like with the dirt on top, and I do apologise if I'm moving the camera a little too quickly. So I've got a variety of things that I'm going to plant. I've got strawberry, which is my fruit, which it's not supposed to be a fruit. I've got lettuce, which technically is a salad. So again, it's not a fruit. And I had this growing off one of my plants in my aquaponics, and the lettuce is self-sown out of the aquaponics. I've got some parsley over there, but it's a herb, so it's not a vegetable, but you can grow it in a pot. So I had that growing in a pot already. I've just transplanted it over here so that my mum will be able to access it easier. I've got a marigold, which is a flower, again, not a vegetable. And then I've got some rosemary that I've been growing from cuttings, which again, not a vegetable. So what I've got that is vegetable is I've got some leeks that I've sprouted from store-bought leek. So you can see this was how wide the store-bought leek was, and all the roots that it's grown since. I've had these in the aquaponics, so I'm going to pop those 3 in that pot because they're quite tall, and that'll give them some room to grow. Then I've got some snow peas, which I'm hoping are going to grow because I'm pretty sure I've had them for years, yeah. Best sowed date before 2017. Oops. So hopefully, either way, they're not going to grow while they're in the packet. If I stick them in the dirt, they might grow. I've got some rainbow chard here that I did put in the aquaponics, but I'm going to pop in here. And I've got some Okinawa spinach, so I can demonstrate how you can grow things from cuttings. So we've got a few things to go. So let's get into it. And this is all about growing in a pot. So I've got my snow peas, and they're climbing, so I'm hoping they're going to kind of climb up all of these things. And I'm going to oversow this a bit because I can always pinch out seeds. So if they grow, I can take them out and eat them as just as sprouts. So I'm going to put 2 in each spot, and if they all germinate, fantastic. If none of them germinate, I haven't lost anything because they're not sitting in the bag anymore. If there's one thing I've noticed is I've got quite a few seed packets that I haven't used. So yeah, so that's basically as easy as it is, and then you water it in. Now ideally, I've seen a heap of people have got water bottles that they've drilled the holes in the tops, or they've bought a special waterer. I'm likely to make a bit of a mess here because I've got a watering can and I've popped some of my worm juice in it. And worm farms are something else you can have in a patio. So I've put a bit of worm juice in here, and I've put some water in it from my aquaponics just to help with root structure. I'm just going to water these in lightly. That's not quite so lightly. But the other thing I've got to try and help these is, hopefully I'm putting these in the right spot. I've got these water bottles that I've chopped the top off. Ideally it'd be better to have it over the entire thing. And I probably need another one, and I probably haven't put it all in the right spot. But I'm going to use those as little mini greenhouses for these. So hopefully they do okay. So let's see, what's next? Let's turn this around. And we'll plant in this chard. So if you buy rainbow chard from the shops, you can separate those out if you want to, but I'm not going to. But yep, it's not quite deep enough, is it? You just dig that in there a little bit and cover it up. And that's about it. Now I'm going to do something slightly different for this one because it's actually a plant, not a seed. And you might have noticed on some of the other plants, in some of the other pots, I've got some wood chips on top. And that's just to help hold in the moisture a little bit. So, excuse me for a minute, I'll just pause this. Okay, sorry, I didn't quite have you lined up there. So I'm just going to pop some wood chips around here. And that's to help hold in the moisture. So act as a bit of a mulch. And that's because this is what I've got. Use whatever you have around the place. Other times I've used sugarcane mulch. I've used all sorts of things. But I really do like wood chips because it actually absorbs a lot of moisture. So I'll give that a bit more of a water. These wood chips are already wet because we've had a little bit of rain this week. It's been wonderful. Been in a horrible drought in this area for the last 4 years. I haven't lived here for that long. I was in Eagleby before this, and we weren't in drought. Well, it had been dry, but not as dry as it had been out here. But I've overflowed that pot a little bit, which is what that noise is. So you can see it's just dribbling into the one below it, which is actually something really nifty about this system. You overflow one pot and it flows into the other pots. So that's the chard plant. And again, I've got a little bottle to pop over the top of that just to kind of help give it a bit of a kickstart along, because it did get pulled out of the aquaponics, which isn't terribly stressful, but it's also not terribly exciting for it. So let's turn it around. And we'll look at the next pots. So next we've got the leeks, and I've got 3 little leeks here. As I said, these were store-bought, but I've chopped the tops off and I'm regrowing. I'm a big fan of doing that. I'm hoping I'm not over planting these pots. I've got a dreadful habit of doing that because I'm used to what I can do in the aquaponics. It's another reason why I stick to the aquaponics instead of dirt. The aquaponics is a lot more forgiving. And it's much better time-wise as well. And you can actually grow, you can actually get balcony units of aquaponics from a gentleman called Murray Hallam at Practical Aquaponics. He makes fiberglass systems, and they're specifically called balcony units. Yes. So I'll just get some wood chips to put around the top of this. Actually, before I do the wood chips, I'll get that a bit of a water in. The beauty of these pots is, yes, they have the water reservoir, but you can't overwater them because it'll just come out the bottom if you do. So that's really, really good. But you don't need pots like this. You can just use any old pot. And you don't even need to use a pot. You could use an old ice cream container or an old yogurt container. Just put a couple of holes in the side. Or most people put holes in the bottom. Because we have such a dry climate here, I put them in the side so that I've got that water reservoir for the really hot days. Just a little bit more water. And when I know the water reservoir is full, I can actually put water in here so it goes straight into the reservoir. Ideally, it'd be nice if I actually had some mosquito netting over the top of those little hole pipes. So over the top of these, so I should put some shade cloth over the top of it, just to stop the mosquitoes from getting in. But not too worried about that at the moment. That's least of my concerns right this minute. Okay, so what's next? And interestingly, why is that moving like that on the screen? I don't know. Okay, so I'm just going to give this parsley a bit of a water in. And it was already quite wet before I put it in there. And put the little greenhousey thing over the top of it too. Now next, I'm going to look at the Okinawa spinach. So I'm going to this is about growing from cuttings. So I'm just going to take all these outside leaves off, and I'll go give this to the noisy goat who's saying, "It's time to milk me, Mum. Why aren't you milking me? Why aren't you milking me?" At the moment I'm actually sick, so I'm not actually milking her in the evenings at the moment. They're down to 1 milking a day. So that's all I'm going to do with that. I could take a few more leaves off. And remember to like and subscribe to the channel so you can see the progress of these plants. I'll do weekly video updates on these pots. I wish I'd thought of doing this at the beginning of the Shed Wars season, but I've lost my pot. Where'd my pot go? Oh. I had a little pot that I was using to put the wood chips in with, but I've managed to, and now I'm hurting my wrist. I actually fell over in the paddock the other day while I was doing something with the chickens and landed on my wrists and my knees, and they are incredibly painful at the moment. Especially when I twist them certain ways, which using this shovel is twisting them in that exact way. Oh my goodness, that wasn't fun. But what will be fun will be when I get to harvest off these plants. So that's the Okinawa spinach planted. I haven't got a bottle big enough to put over the top of that. next, I've got my little lettuce plant. So I'm going to plant that in there. I think I've run out of pots actually, because I really wanted to plant some kale. Oh well, not to worry. I haven't quite got enough soil in this one. Oh, that's right, because I'm going to put some seeds in here. So I've got some seed packets that I picked up. So this is a red minuet. Hopefully it works. These again are supposed to be used before 2016. And they're definitely not going to grow while they're in this little plastic bag, are they? No. No, they won't. Now, if you've never seen a lettuce seed before, that is... see if I can zoom in on it. There you go. That is a lettuce seed. See, and lettuces go to seed quite proactively in my aquaponics. So I could end up with thousands of little tomato lettuces come up from that lot. But if I do, I'll just pinch them out and put them in the aquaponics. So that's not a big drama. Generally, you'd only put a couple per seed tray. And these ones were supposed to be sown before 2016 as well. So these are a lettuce side pick. So it's a sow all year variety. Again, really little seeds. Really little. And lettuce usually germinate really, really well. Once you've got lettuce, you've usually got it. It just keeps coming back. Unfortunately, in this area, being in southeast Queensland, lettuce tends to bolt during the summer, which means it goes to seed really readily, which has its advantages and disadvantages. It means you get more seeds, and then you can collect the ones that take the longest to bolt, so that you're improving your stock each time, if that's where you put it. It's not really stock because it's not animal. But I'm not going to put wood chips over that one because I've got seeds in there and they need to get them to germinate. And that little lettuce plant is just one that came up self-sown in the aquaponics. I probably had a plant go to seed and it dropped its seeds everywhere. That's the lettuce. And now I've got the little tomato. That is not a tomato, that is a strawberry. That's come off a runner, so that was a little vine to the mother plant and all the roots are starting to form there. So I'm hoping this will take off well. But yeah, follow along so you can keep track of this and see how it's all going. And that's all it is. You just stick it in the dirt and leave it from there. It's nothing terribly fancy or complicated. Just get in there and plant something. Try and grow anything. Mung beans or any kind of sprouts are another really easy crop to start with. Very hard to kill as long as you remember to water them. Now this one I'm going to put some wood chips in. Made a bit of a mess in my trolley. I'm a bit of a messy gardener. Oh, not really. I try not to be too messy. I try to be fairly organised. And I probably should have left a little bit of that, more of that out. I may have put a little bit too much wood chips in there, but it'll be fine. It'll sort itself out. Give it a little bit more water. And that one I'm going to put a little bottle over the top just to give it a little bit of protection. Oh, I was going to do that with the lettuce as well, just to give it a little bit of a greenhouse effect in there. And that's basically it. I was going to do some kale, but I do have some more pots down the bottom. They're just not ready for planting yet, so I might do another video with those next week. As I said, I'm not really feeling that well. We've had a horrible cold and flu go through the house all week, so I'm really glad you're not here to be able to pick up the bugs. As well as having the horrible fall. It wasn't bad. I tripped over some of the electric wire for the offences. It just wasn't fun, especially being not sick, not well. But yeah, anyway, it's beside the point. It can be so easy to grow things in small spaces. I mean, this is barely taking up a square metre. But you've got vertical space that you're getting to use, which I'm a big fan of using vertical space. A bit of food can actually be produced in this little tiny area of space right here. So you've got your herbs, you've got your salads, you've got a few veggies, some of your salad greens, and I've still got a heap of pots here that I haven't finished filling up. I need to cut some more shade cloth up to be able to use as a barrier between the clay balls and the soil, and I need to open up another bag of potting mix, and that's half the reason why I stopped. I didn't want to open up the next bag of potting mix. And I got a pussycat here keeping me company. Say hello, Almanzo. Nope, he's just going to come and smooch. Anyway, so we've got rosemary, we've got some flowers there to attract the pollinators. Not that I really need too many pollinators in what's growing here, except for the strawberries. The strawberries will need some pollinators. But it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just plant something. And it can take up a really small amount of space. But if you want to see some really fantastic growing in small spaces, check out Zoom Bettie's Adventures of Zoom Bettie, sorry, their channel. I'll leave a link up there for their SHEDWARS playlist, because they grow on a balcony, so they've got a really small space, and I'll leave a link to their playlist, to their channel, in the description below. So yeah, but I'm really pleased with how this has turned out, and I'll give you an update on it next week. Have a great one. Bless you.